I'm not an economist, I'm just an accountant who stares at numbers for a living. But the other day, I was thinking about something that really made me wonder. If every country's in debt, who's it all owed to? I mean, we hear it all the time. The US owes over $38 trillion. Japan owes trillions. Europe owes trillions. Even countries with oil exports and big surpluses, they're all in debt. So who's it all owed to? Who's sitting at the top of the money pile? I didn't have a clear answer, so I started digging. And the more I looked into it, the more strange and unsettling it got. This video is an honest look at how the system really works and who it's really serving. Because the truth is, it's not what you think, and it's not what you've been told. The global debt illusion. So here's what I found out. Every country on Earth is in debt. The US, over 38 trillion. Japan, around 9 trillion. The European Union, another 14 trillion. Even wealthy, resource-rich countries like Saudi Arabia, Germany, and China all carry massive debt in the hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars. And that's where the confusion starts, because if everyone owes, who's the money owed to? It's not like there's some hidden kingdom sitting on a mountain of gold collecting payments from the rest of the world. The crazy part, most of this debt isn't owed to some outside power. It's owed within the system to other governments, banks, and even back to ourselves. Let me explain. When the US government borrows money, it issues Treasury bonds, basically IOUs. Those bonds are bought by banks, pension funds, insurance companies, mutual funds, even the Federal Reserve. And guess who owns most of those? That's right, Americans. In fact, about 2/3 of US debt is owed to institutions and investors right here in the United States. The rest? Mostly foreign governments and banks. Japan holds about 1 trillion. China holds a little less, around 800 billion. Then you've got places like the UK, Luxembourg, and Belgium. But here's the thing, even those countries are in debt too. So the system ends up looking like this weird debt loop. The US owes Japan, Japan owes someone else. That someone might owe Europe. Europe owes the IMF. Developing countries owe Europe. Then they turn around and they buy US bonds as reserve. It's like a giant financial merry-go-round. Everyone is holding someone else's IOU. And the system keeps going because everyone keeps going along. The system was built this way on purpose. Here's where it gets even more interesting. This whole idea of national debt isn't new. In fact, it goes back hundreds of years. In 1694, England was at war with France. They were running out of gold and the king needed money fast. So he made a deal with wealthy merchants. Lend me the money now and I'll pay you back later with interest using future tax revenue. That deal became the model for modern government borrowing. And to manage it, they created the Bank of England. That was the beginning of something entirely new. Governments could now spend money they didn't have yet. And lenders got something valuable in return, a promise, backed by the power to tax the people. That promise became a bond, the backbone of how modern countries raise money. Other countries copied the model, France, the Netherlands, eventually the United States. That didn't mean failure anymore. It became a tool, a way to show economic strength. The ability to borrow became the ability to rule effectively. Empires used to take wealth by force. Now they just borrow it and pay interest on it forever. Here's a quote that I found that stuck with me. It said, "Debt is how the ones in control of the system, the ones who design the system, create money out of nothing for themselves and make everyone else work to pay it back." Let me know what you think of that in the comments below. By the way, if you like this type of content, please do me a favor, hitting like and subscribe really helps out the channel. Thank you. The debt machine we all live in. Today, debt isn't just a way for governments to borrow money, it's the engine that runs the whole financial system. When the US needs money, the US Treasury issues bonds. Those are the IOUs we talked about earlier. Banks, mutual funds, even regular investors buy those bonds. Then the Federal Reserve can step in and buy them too. And when they do, they're not using cash from a vault. They're creating new dollars out of thin air in exchange for that debt. That's literally how money is made today. Every new dollar is backed by someone else's debt. I know it sounds strange, but there's really no such thing as debt-free money in our system anymore. Every coin, every bill, every digital dollar, it all started as an IOU on someone else's balance sheet. And here's the wildest part. Governments aren't expected to pay these debts off. Not now, not ever. They just keep rolling them over, paying old debt with new debt, like refinancing a loan over and over again. In fact, if they ever did pay it all off, the entire system would break. Why? Because of that debt. It's what banks use as collateral. It's what pension funds depend on. It's what central banks treat as money itself. There's a reason US Treasuries are called risk-free assets. They're not seen as a liability, they're seen as the safest investment in the world. So the goal isn't to eliminate debt, it's to keep it going at a pace the system can handle. So you see, it's not a flaw in the system, it's a feature. Debt has become a fundamental part of the system. Control and confidence. At some point while researching this topic, I came across a quote, maybe you've heard of it. It's often attributed to one of the Rothschilds, Nathan Rothschild to be specific. Now, whether he actually said it or not, I don't know, but the message stuck with me. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England. The man who controls the British money supply controls the British Empire, and I, Nathan Rothschild, control the British money supply. Whether it's accurate or not, it reflects a truth that feels very real. Power doesn't always look like power. It's not always presidents or parliaments or flags waving in the air. In our world today, power often hides behind the scenes, behind monetary policy, behind debt. That's what national debt has become, not just money owed, but a way to steer entire countries without ever firing a shot. Control the debt, and you control the major decisions. Control the interest rates, and you shape what's possible and what's not. And somewhere in the middle of all this, I read a comment that really got to me, and it said, "Sometimes I do think all of this is made more confusing and convoluted on purpose just so none of us regular people actually understand it." And honestly, that doesn't sound crazy. Because if you've ever tried to read a central bank report or watch a congressional hearing on the debt ceiling, it's like it's designed to make your eyes glaze over. But when you break it down, it's actually pretty simple. Debt is being used as a tool of control. And the more complex the system looks, the less likely we are to question it. When confidence breaks. Now here's the part that really matters. This whole system, the borrowing, the refinancing, the endless loop of IOUs, it only works because people believe in it. Governments don't have to pay off the debt, but they do have to make people think they can. Because the second that belief fades, things can break. And we've seen it happen. In 2010, Greece hit a wall. Their debt got so big that investors no longer trusted they'd ever pay it back. Bond prices collapsed, interest rates spiked, and the country was thrown into a full-blown crisis. Unemployment skyrocketed, pensions were slashed, lots of people lost everything. The European Central Bank and the IMF stepped in with a bailout. But that came with a price. Massive austerity, tax hikes, spending cuts, and much pain. For Greece, the bailout wasn't relief. It was a loss of control. Argentina, they've been through this kind of collapse multiple times. Each time debt deals are restructured, each time people pay the price. Sri Lanka, in 2022, they ran out of foreign currency to pay off their debts, and within months, the country plunged into political and economic chaos, which they're slowly trying to climb their way out of today. These moments reveal something important. When confidence disappears, the whole system breaks down. That's when new creditors swoop in, offering stability in the form of new borrowing in exchange for control, aka the country's assets. And even after a collapse, the cycle just resets. Old debt gets rolled into new loans. New names appear on the same balance sheet. The machine keeps going, just with more control and fewer individual freedoms. Because this system, it wasn't built for stability. It was built to keep running, no matter what. So what do we take away from all of this? If every nation is in debt and most of the money is just cycling through the same institutions, then maybe the question isn't just who the debt is owed to. Maybe the real question is, what kind of system are we living in? And who does it really serve? We live in a world where debt is no longer something to be paid off. It's something to be managed, extended, and controlled forever. Politicians talk about fiscal responsibility and balancing the budget like it's still a real goal. But deep down, they know the truth. The plan was never to pay it back. The plan is to keep the world believing it will be. Because if that belief breaks, the whole thing comes crashing down. And while they say we owe the debt to ourselves, that's not really how it works. Interest payments don't flow equally through society. They flow upward from workers and taxpayers to banks, funds, and institutions. That's why global debt and global inequality rise together. The people who hold the debt make money. Everyone else, they pay for it. This isn't about left or right. It's not about conspiracy. It's about understanding the rules of the game that we never chose to be a part of. I make these videos to help people understand how the system really works and how to protect yourself financially, not with fear, but with clarity, truth, and a plan. If you want to know about the shocking money theory behind America's debt crisis, then you need to watch this video right up here. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.